I'm Jim Selman. I want to share with you some things that I've been having a conversation with some friends and consultants in the United Kingdom about what's going on in the world. And that's really the core question, I think, that's in front of a lot of us, is what's happening. It was my view, and I think I've shared this with some of you in the past, that one of the most central characteristics of these times is this notion of accelerating change, that things are happening in days or months and in very short blocks of time that used to take months or years. The idea of accelerating change, we could say, may be attributable to technology, may be contributing to a lot of things. But one of the things that's unarguable is that we can't any longer really predict the future. And most of our clients, I think, would agree that they can't rely on their predictions the way they used to. And that's a real big change in terms of how our world is constituted and how our paradigm or how our understanding of organization and individual life is organized, because our whole worldview is pretty much based in the idea that the past is what determines the future. And therefore we try to take the past and project it, a trend, or project an event or a circumstance into the future. So if you take the idea of accelerating change and you take the idea of unpredictability, and probably we could add to that the fact that everything seems to be becoming almost overwhelmingly complex. We're now beginning to see the connections, so that if we're talking about poverty, we can't separate that conversation from global economics. Or if we're talking global economics, we can't separate that from our conversations about climate change. That all of these different areas of life, all of these different problem, concern, intractable issues are now sort of coalescing around a similar theme, in the sense that it's like a big Gordian knot. And it all seems to be everything connected to everything else. So anyway, you take these three areas of accelerating change, unpredictability, complexity, and it all adds up to sort of a loss of control. Now I've taken those four areas, loss of control, unpredictability, complexity, and accelerating change, and I've lumped them together under a term which I appropriated from my own experience in computing. When the gap between inputs and outputs became shorter and shorter as computers got faster and faster, computers stopped being about reporting and they started becoming real time, and we invented the term real-time computing. Now I'm suggesting we are now living in a real-time world, and that means is that the gap between the future and the past is getting narrower and narrower, to where we are basically required to rethink how we think, rethink how we relate to the world, develop new competencies and new skills. The metaphor that I've been using is surfing. You know, that we could almost say that we're living on the edge of this emerging wave of history, which we can't predict. But as this wave of history emerges and accelerates and moves faster and faster, whether we're a company or whether we're an individual, we need to be able to master surfing, somehow staying on the edge of that wave and anticipating what's coming, while at the same time having the freedom to maneuver and to manage where we are in time and space, with the idea that we, at the end of the day, would like to be happy and successful and have all the same things we've always wanted. So the idea then leads to the question of how do we navigate in a real-time world? How do we make choices? How do we make decisions? How do we make priorities? What are the skill sets that we need to develop in ourselves and also encourage in our children and the next generations? And that's really the focus of the conversations I'm having this week, as well as the focus of my work for probably the foreseeable future. Now, some of those skills are pretty obvious, like you need to learn to be much more in the present than spend a lot of time planning. You have less and less time to prepare, so therefore you need to be able to learn as you go. One of the things that's very, very central to this is the phenomenon of moods. that moods are sort of like the soundtrack of life. It's the phenomenon that gives color and texture and continuity to our experience over time. And in that way, moods are really our connection with time and connection with what's occurring on the edge of this wave. And we can no longer let moods simply happen to us. We need to learn to master them and to use moods and recognize moods as really the pathway to give us the freedom to be able to stay present on one hand and at the same time have direction and power on the other hand. So anyway, these are some of the thoughts that we're working on. There's a few other skills and competencies that are becoming apparent, but I'll share those in a future broadcast. So thank you.